What's up, guys? It's your girl Matt Cox with Couture Crafting. Today we're going to be talking about the double oven mitt. Um, Funny story. I gave a couple of my family members this, and I made one for myself that I kept, which is also made out of Tula fabric, and we have all just fallen in love with them. It's the thing in the kitchen that you never knew you needed. But we do big stuff. We pull in big old turkeys out of the oven and big boiling lasagnas and gumbo pots, and it makes a difference. It totally makes a difference. However, I was using my mother's and I was pulling a big old lasagna out, and she was like, "Wait, wait, don't use it. Don't use it. It's going to get dirty." And I'm like, "Guys, use your stuff. Use your stuff. That's what I make stuff for. I make the quilts to be used. I make stuff to be used no matter how you feel it. Just use the stuff." But as I was holding that lasagna, I was like, "Oh, I wasn't burnt. My hands were not burning, but I was like, hmm." So I was thinking we need to hurry up. So what I did with this one is I used two layers where the mitten area is, with the Insul Bright shiny side facing out, of course, or facing this direction actually, because this is how you use it. But I used double the amount here, and that made a big difference. And I like it. I like these better. This is actually better than the ones that I've made for everybody thus far. Going forward, I will probably always do that. My machine took it like a champ. It was able to quilt with no issues. If you are doing this project and you have a domestic that is not heavy duty, it's not a heavy duty machine, simple trick: quilt down your in between layers. You should do that with anything that you think is going to give you some trouble and move around, and you think that your quilt or your project is a little on the thicker side. Quilt between all the layers. Going ahead and run a stay stitch around a couple of times. And that's what I did. Even though I knew my machine could handle it, I knew that I was giving it a ton of layers. We have binding on this guy. We have two layers of Insul Bright, one layer of regular batting. So I just sewed around it again, and it compresses it. And then it's like no big deal for your machine to just take it. So that's one of the tips and tricks that you see when we're putting this together. And if you'd like to see how I put this together, go on ahead and keep watching. There is another video about this that I did, I think last year or the year before, and it doesn't do the double layers, but it's put together the same way. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this, please keep watching, subscribe, comment. And the cool thing about this one is it's going in a giveaway. And so if you'd like a chance to win this, go on ahead and find the giveaway video. It's going to be given away January the 7th, 2022. All right, I will talk to you guys later. Okay, bye-bye. So this is the giveaway: two trivet pot holders and then this oven mitt. So the first thing we're going to do is grab our fabric and try to figure out exactly where we want what. So this is me kind of doing some very long fussy cutting. I knew that I wanted the butterflies. I wanted to capture as much of these two rows of butterflies as I could. So when I bought this fabric, I bought more than I needed just so that I could fussy cut it. But you only need a 9 by like 30, like a foot, like a whole yard cut, like a 9 by 1 yard cut. So like a 9 by 36 inches or something like that. Yeah, like 9 by 36 inches of fabric. And then I knew that for the actual mitten part, I wanted to stay with the butterfly theme. I mean, the other ones that I did before, I kind of mixed and matched, but I knew I wanted to get these butterflies fussy cut dead in the center. So I taped off 9 by 10 and a half, and I lined it. So half a 9 would be what? 4.5. So I put it on the 4.5 line and the 5.25 line. I put that dead center of that butterfly, and then I made the cut up the right and across the top. Then we're going to flip it around and we're going to plug it right where that tape is. And that's how I got that butterfly dead center. And so now the center is still 4.5 by 5.25 now. That's the center of the butterfly. And look, I fussy cut a butterfly. Now again, you're going to need to do buy more fabric than you think that you're going to need. So I think I bought maybe a yard and a half of fabric. And I figured I'll just do something awesome with the scraps, like, give them away. So I did the same thing twice with this butterfly. And I'm glad that I bought all this fabric because I ended up giving away my first oven mitt. You'll see all that happen in a few moments. But again, you just put it center and then rotate it around and take off the rest of it, and you'll have two centered butterflies. So I'm using Insul fleece for this first one. I prefer the Insul fleece because it doesn't make that crinkly foil sound. Insul bright sounds like you got a baked potato in your hands all the time. It's got that swishy, swishy, swishy sound, and I don't love it. So Insul fleece would be my preference, but the one that I'm giving away has Insul bright in it. It's similar. It's just one that, makes a lot of noise and another one that doesn't. So I'm cutting this down to be 9 by, I don't know, I think 36. I prefer mine a little bit on the longer side because I'm a big girl, so just make sure that it's at least 36 inches long. Okay, I just want to show you guys what I'm doing and why I'm altering what I'm altering. These are the pieces. I'm using the Shabby Fabrics template, and for the most part, their pattern and instructions on how to put this together. I've done this before. It worked out really well, but I'm going to alter one thing. So what I have cut out is the Insul Bright, actually this is Insul Fleece, some batting. Both of those are cut 9 by pretty much 36, maybe a little bit longer than 36. I cut out an additional 9 by 10 and a half, which is going to go, I'll show you guys where that goes, but this is what I'm altering. This is additional. It is not in the pattern. And then I have the batting that's cut at 9 and 10 and a half. These are going to be where the mitts are, and this is going to be the front and the back of the fabric, and then this over here is going to be binding. And I cut a small strip to bind the mitt, and I'll show you guys where I use that. Now we got to figure out how to use my new machine because I do not know how. All right, there we go. Now, when I put these layers together, for the mitten part, it's just 2 pieces of fabric, and I'm using the 505 basting spray to put it, and I take that outside, spray it, bring it back inside, and I spray the batting, not the fabric. And I've done that with one side, so look, one side is already done, and now I'm just going to take the next piece of fabric and smooth it over that sticky batting. And then I just smooth it with my hands. And that is my basting. So you see both sides have, on the other side, the inside, you won't even see that. So it doesn't matter what fabric you put on the inside. Do the same thing for that middle layer. I don't show me basting all of that, but this is what the sandwich looks like where I've added that extra batting just at the ends. So it should be a sheet of one fabric. Your base fabric, the one that touches the food, is going to be facing down. Then you put your Insul Bright in there. Then you put your extra piece of Insul Bright. Then you just put one layer of batting over the top. And that's your sandwich. And there's my sandwich. Now I'm going to mark it to Quilted. So again, make sure that that first layer, that first fabric layer is facing the opposite direction. You want it to be facing your food, facing your mat. Make sure that you don't put it the other direction, and then just make your sandwich. I'm using a hair marker here, which has no color. It's just like a bone folder, and it makes an indentation, and you can follow that line for your quilting. And it stays in really well. And then I just follow the line. You might want to use your walking foot because we are going through layers here. Good deal. Okay, so now that we have got our panel quilted and our 2 side hand things quilted, love the way this came out. Again, learning to use my machine, I did not realize that I had my stitch on like 1.8, and I should have known because but whatever. It is what it is. It's not perfectly smooth, but It looks really good on this side. And this side, it's just wait, but the quilting is really interesting. I went ahead and did some 60-degree diamonds as opposed to my usual 45, kind of giving it a lattice feel. And I jumped in with my signature, signature quilting. Anytime I quilt, I want to use 12 weight thread. So I was curious to see how my machine would handle 12 weight. It'll handle it. So let's keep going. We are going to grab the template for the sides. And now all we have to do is cut this down to 8 inches and then round off the sides and do the same thing for those. And we will be cooking with gas. Okay, let's do it. So now we are going to just trim off the excess, just line it up. Let's get it clean and ready to go. Use your 60 I mean, that's a 45 right there, but if you have a larger rotary cutter, now would be the time to use it because we are going through layers. And you want to get this down to be 8 inches. So we started with 9, and we did that because when you quilt, see, stuff shifts. You can see all that batting and things shift. Always be prepared for things to shift when you start doing some quilting, especially all that quilting that I did, which was unnecessary, but that's okay. So we're going to trim this down, and I kept eating away at both sides until I was comfortable with where those butterflies were sitting. A lot of care went into trying to preserve the integrity of these butterflies. They're so neat, they're so edgy, they're so funky. Like the way she put these eyes on this butterfly, just, it's so funny. I had no interest in this line initially. And the more I used it, the more I fell in love with it. The more I saw people use it, the more I wanted to use it. The more I used it, the more I wanted to use it. Crazy, right? So I'm taking this template from Shabby Fabrics, and I like mine a little longer than hers. I have long nails, and I like to make sure that my hand gets in there. So it's cut to 10.5 by 9, I think. I try to keep as much as the 10.5 as I can. Make sure that you understand that this is upside down that I'm cutting it. This is upside down. If you don't have an image that you want to be shown, if you hang this over your oven, you're fine. But the flat part is up. Please remember, flat part is up. I actually wrote a note on my template now so that I don't forget that. That's why this one went to my cousin. I just couldn't live with the fact that the butterflies were not facing the direction that I wanted the butterflies to be facing. I imagine that people hang these over their ovens, and when you do, you want the butterfly to be right side up. If you look at the mittens, the oven mitt that I did initially for my mother, it has her name on it, and so it has to be put right side up. See, look at how the butterflies are facing the inside direction. I didn't love it. Okay, so for the binding for this area here, you're going to fold it in half, press it, and then you're going to fold those toward the center, press it, and then make it so that it just fits right inside like a sandwich. And then I go on ahead and clip it in place, and then I do a nice decorative stitch down the side, and it gives you a chance to, one, use your decorative stitches, which is so much fun, and it's just a nice one-step process. You don't have to bind it traditionally. You know how you sew down your binding on one side and then roll it over and then hand stitch it. We don't have time for that. This is much, much easier. You could actually do this if you want to take your time with the entire uh, oven mitt. You can do the same technique, but I think it's a little bit easier just to do some binding. I don't show you guys me binding this oven mitt, so make sure you do bias binding, which gives you that stretch, and that's just fabric that's cut on that 45, or you can purchase bias binding from your big box stores. This is me cutting the mitts again. This is the one that I'm actually giving away so that I get the butterflies the right side up. I actually marked an arrow that shows me which side is up just so that I don't forget that again because that annoyed me to the point where I redid a whole oven mitt because I just didn't love it. So this is just a good reminder. Be sure to really think through what you're doing before you're doing it because things like this annoy me, so I had to make a whole new one, which is fine. So now my cousin, who I call my sister sometimes, I go back and forth, so don't get confused. I don't have any true siblings, and so I have some cousins that I'm very close with, and sometimes I call them my sister, sometimes I call them my cousin. But anyway, that's who got this oven mitt. And if you're again hanging it over the side, you really want it to be right side up. You don't want anybody's names to be upside down, and so I can't stress that part enough. And again, I don't show me binding this completely, but I do show you in a few moments. I'm going to show you how I compressed the fabric. Instead of going by layer, which is what you should do if you don't have a heavy duty machine, I did all my layers at one time, but I did a very small zigzag stitch twice around the areas that had that double batting, which is only around the mitten area. The area in between is just fabric and some 2 layers of batting. I knew my machine wouldn't have any trouble with that. My new machine actually doesn't have any trouble doing anything. If it can get under the needle, I don't have that issue. But if you have a regular domestic, a really good idea when you are quilting a bunch of layers is just to do a kind of a tight stitch or a zigzag stitch just to compress the layers and then put that on top and layer your stuff up, and that will help. When I do the pot holders that I showed in the very beginning, if your domestic machine will not handle all those layers, go layer by layer. Just something to think about. So I put this on the sides here and I rounded off the corners. You can use a template. You can use your the the parts that you've already rounded, which is what I'm doing. I'm actually using the mitten part as a template here. It doesn't matter. You can mark it. You can use your scissors to cut it. You can do, you can trace it and then stitch it. It's just up to you. And then cut it after you've stitched it. It's up to you. Whatever makes you happy. So see, I'm marking it here, and then I just use my scissors and cut it. I don't know why I'm doing different things, but no biggie. And I like when people stitch on the line and then cut the line too. Another way to get a nice clean curve. And this is me zigzagging it, and that's it. Bind it, and you're done. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, guys. And if you'd like to see the original one that I did, here it is. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye bye.